Well, greetings and salutations, 63 test takers. This is Dean Tinney. I'm coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas. One of the most popular things on the channel is live explications of practice tests. We've done this for the 65, we've done this for 66, and we have Ben, who's a brave soul, and he's agreed to share his journey through these 60 performance opportunities to find out where he's at. Well, what I would suggest is hit pause, and then see what your answer would be, see what Ben's answer is. And, if there's corrections or commentary necessary along the way, I will certainly do that. Now, we're going straight through, but remember, you can always hit pause and go get an old beverage or whatever, take a break if you need to through this. I would tell you, you're trying to build up your sustained concentration for the exam. So, 75 minutes is 75 minutes. And so, sometimes I think people don't start building that up. They do 10, 15-minute things. We're using the Kaplan QBank with my Guru 10 discount code at checkout. I think the 63 QBank is relatively inexpensive investment to make, and I highly recommend it. And for that commercial, Kaplan allows you the free look you're about to get on a 60-question practice test. All right, Ben. Under the Uniform Securities Act, which of the following concerning the withdrawal of an agent's registration is not true? Not true.
I would say B.
You said B. Absent any disciplinary innings, withdraws effective 60 days after the application. And you indeed, my friend, are correct.
Because the 60 days is for the opportunity for no, it's not for a hearing, is it? It's for there's something with 60 days. It's
well, I think what they were trying to mess you up on here is the noon of the 30th day for effective registration. That's what I think the thing was, but you got it correct. All right, you're 100%. Question 2, under the Uniform Securities Act, which of the following fits the definition of a sale?
Well, B is an offer.
Right on.
I would say C.
Man, boo-hoo. You can, listen, so other test takers joining us for this journey, sometimes I'm probably going to jinx them now. This is indeed correct again. But sometimes, we were talking about social media before we began the journey, before I hit the record button. And I feel tough love is necessary sometimes. So far with my friend Ben, it is not. But, sometimes when people ask certain questions, it's a sign that they really haven't laid enough base knowledge. And it's the same with answering. So you can just tell from Ben's answers, another correct answer, and his commentary that he has done some base work, which is kind of cool, because sometimes people jump into these practice tests or practice question too soon, and they're using to learn rather than what we're doing right now. We're not trying to learn stuff. Hopefully we'll learn some new stuff along the way, but this is basically get a mark. So, Ben can feel, whether he's on pace or on track or he needs some remediation. So another correct answer. Now, I would add commentary to this to say, I don't think it's really necessary to know that, because it doesn't really matter to the state administrator whether it was an offer accepted in a sale or just an offer, because remember, it's the same thing legally. I mean, if I attempt to rob the bank and I'm unsuccessful, I'm still going to jail, right? So just be careful on questions too, where they ask you no sale took place, that you realize that still could be a violation. All right. In the Somerville Discount Securities has its principal office in New Jersey. So the first thing I would tell all test takers is you want to kind of, before you answer the question, RTFQ, right? Read the full question. The first thing I like to do is say, okay, I'm being asked about a broker dealer. Discount Securities is a broker dealer, right? So I want to know whether I'm being asked about a broker dealer, an investment advisor, an issuer. This is a broker dealer, principal office in New Jersey, recently registered branch office in Minnesota. Which of the following statements is true?
Well, B is the principal directors and officers that got the automatic registration.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But remember what that means is New Jersey. Where do we go? We're in Minnesota. Minnesota will accept the registration we made in New Jersey for the principal officers of the firm. Yeah, you're correct.
And then I would say C.
Each agent must be registered in the appropriate state before soliciting and taking orders. You are correct. You know, if this doesn't work out, you can get a job with the North American Securities Administrator Association. You could be one of their examiners and go out and do that. That's correct again. Which of the following practices violates NASA's statement of policy on dishonest and unethical business practices? Now, one thing I would share backstage, Ben was telling me some things he was worried about in terms of subject areas, in terms of the exam. And I told him this was a big one. This, there's not, one of the challenges on 63, there's not a lot of target rich environments. It's a lot of onesies and twosies, but this is like 15 questions on dishonest, unethical business practices. So you really want to make sure you heavily weight your study effort accordingly. Okay, so you're up.
I would say D.
Deliberate, you said D?
No. C, failing to follow on customers.
Yeah, that's right. So even if I don't want to, I got to say, well, it's, you're the customer, and if you tell me to do it, I got to do it. So you are correct. You are batting 1,000s thus far. Excuse me. Under NASA's model rule of unethical business practices of investment advisors, investment advisor reps, and federally covered advisors, the contract between an investment advisor and its client should include all of the following except. All of the following except.
I would say B.
Yeah, I can't say, hey, I let you down, and so, this one's on me. No. Right, so no waiving of that, correct. A closed-end investment company is registered under the Investment Company Act of 1940. Its shares trade on the NASDAQ stock market. To qualify their shares in the state, they would probably use.
All right, so coordination is for like numerous states, am I right? And then
You're correct. You're correct. I love that, by the way, Ben. I love what you're doing. I call that as a test-taking trick process of elimination. And it's a great skill. So you're saying coordination is for more than one state. You are correct. And I'm assuming that means you're going to exclude that as being a potential answer. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. And then qualification is for interstate, right? It's for one.
That's excellent.
Right.
So now you got 50-50.
Notice filing.
Yeah, there's no such thing as called supplementation. So be careful on. Every once in a while somebody will say, well, like I had a guy, he said, what's a Murphy account? I said, I don't know, an account that goes the wrong way all the time. I have no clue. I go, there's cash accounts, there's, margin accounts, there's UPMA accounts. And he goes, well, why didn't you tell me that doesn't exist? I said, well, if we talked about things that didn't exist, we would be here forever. I said, why did you take that? And he said, Dean, it was not in my study materials. I'd never heard anybody mention it. So I figured it was the right answer. I go, listen, if you don't know what the answer is, don't take it, because it's just a distractor. Those are the technical name for the right answers. This is a federally covered security. Do you know the other federally covered securities, Ben, besides NASDAQ securities?
Isn't it like New York Stock Exchange, ones that are listed on the?
Excellent. What else? So you got NASDAQ, you got New York, there's a couple more.
The other federal ones, it's ones issued by banks, am I right?
Well, it's not the one I'm looking for. Banks aren't federally covered. That's exempt. I'm being kind of a jerk, but
No, you're right though.
So Ben, let me just back up briefly. We passed what's called the National Securities Market Improvement Act. And under the National Market Securities Improvement Act, states didn't like it. We created two buckets. We created a bucket called federally covered securities, and we created a bucket called federally covered investment advisors. And this took power away from the states. And federally covered securities are NASDAQ, New York mutual funds.
Yeah, I was going to say the open funds.
Mutual funds and Reg D private placements. All right. If information on file with the administrator changes, a broker dealer must give notification.
I think it's promptly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They just recently published updates to the test specifications. This has always been tested, but now they've got a separate category that they've added to test specifications called maintenance of your registration of the broker dealer or the agents. And so very testable. All right. Under NASA statement of policy, dishonest business practices of broker dealers and agents, all the following are prohibited practices except, now remember I told you this is the biggest category on 63. is this statement on this thing. This is like, don't lie, cheat, and steal stuff is a lot of your exam.
I would say C.
Yeah, be careful on these except ones, right? Because this is asking you all the following are prohibited practices, except telling your supervisor that there's been a customer complaint. Oh, that's the right thing to do, right? That's what you're supposed to do. Excellent. State securities laws generally limit agents to employment with a single broker or dealer unless.
I would say, because you need the administrator approval, but it's, I
Yeah,
think it's
right on, Ben. So your choice is
D.
C.
D.
D, there you go.
Yeah.
Listen, I think of the SEC is God and state administrators think they are. So, there's, these 50 demigods running around. There's actually more than 50 because there's territories. And yeah, so anytime they say, if the administrator says it's, cool, well, then it's cool. I was tutoring a young lady and on the 63 and, I don't really think tutoring is necessary, but on these NAS exams, it can be a challenge to figure out what you're being asked. But anyway, she was telling me that what she was being challenged with was, trying to figure out what the question was and what the answers were. And that it can be a challenge, but she had a right answer. What I had done is covered up the screen and then asked you to project, Ben, the answer without the answer set. And she said something that was so correct, but it was in street language. I mean, I kind of laughing because it was her answer was was correct. I said,
Yeah.
now, when I do the reveal, that's not, even though what you just said is correct, and that is the right answer, that's not how it's going to be phrased. So now you just have to put that into, the legalese that is NASA. Out-of-state investment advisors with no office. So key point, it's an out-of-state investment advisor. No office, are not required to register if only giving advice. In which of the following circumstances it looks like they're asking us.
I would say D.
Yeah, the way I think of it, and not testable, Ben, what I think about it is insurance companies are capable of protecting their own assets, right? This is about protecting retail investors, Joe Sixpacks, right? If I'm the state administrator of my state, I'm not worried about insurance companies. If they come whining to me about a bad investment, I go, you should have been smarter.
There's a few more that are like that. It's like,
Yeah, broker dealers, institutional investors, right? Ben, I always use the example of my firm. My firm was called Gamma Global Investments. And I have an office in California and I have an office in Virginia. So no doubt the broker dealer has to be registered in Virginia and California. I conducted business in Texas, Florida, and New York. I have no office. I'm not registered in any of those states, my broker dealer, because I have no retail customers. Your point, right? I only have institutional investors who are capable of protecting their own assets, their own interests. Now, remember, if I open an office in New York, regardless of the type of business I'm conducting, I would have to register. If I have one retail client in New York, I have to register, right? So good job again.
The de minimis is just for the investment advisors.
So important, so important. That's why I said the cast of characters is so important. You're correct. There is no de minimis for broker dealers, Ben. It hurts my heart when people don't understand that. And I get it. The first thing you want to do is stuff this all into your brain housing group and then work on delineating it. And, so what happens is they put that up there and they go, oh, there's this de minimis thing. And no, your point, only for investment advisors, period, full stop. Only for state covered advisors. I'm federally covered, I can have 1,000 clients, doesn't matter. So you got to be real careful. Your point about the broker dealer has one retail customer. There is no de minimis. They need to register. Well, good job. All right. So when a broker dealer registers with the state administrator, which of the following agents are automatically registered? I'll be surprised if you missed this because you just told me this a minute ago.
It's D.
Yeah, indeed. Right. So, that's kind of bad form too when you you miss something when you do the right. Be careful. I love your pace. Your pace is pretty good. The other thing I would comment on when we do these kind of things a lot with people is I have people who instead of just, aim and shoot, point and click on the D choice, I literally have them give me the right answer. And then they keep talking because I need to talk out loud. So I know whether you have stinking thinking or your thinking's okay. And And I don't know what happens. They just walk away from the answer. I said, well, you gave me the right answer. I don't know what happened. A client with a margin account notifies an agent of his vacation next week. So what I always like to do is I like to pretend that's me. So, I'm Dean, I have a client, or I'm Ben, I have a client. He has a margin account. And so I'm the agent. So on this exam, when you see agent, I sometimes suggest for grammar purposes, you put yourself into the question. When they say broker dealer, I put my broker dealer into the question. They say, state A, I call it New York or wherever I'm at. So this client has a margin account. He's going on vacation next week. The day after the client departs, there's a substantial market sell-off, and the drop in the value of the client's portfolio requires additional margin in the client account immediately. Which of the following actions of the agent would not be prohibited? Not be prohibited.
I would say A.
Yeah. Now listen, I'm going to share something that, again, a lot of people think I shouldn't share. Even Kaplan, even sponsoring broker dealers. You said correct, doing her best to reach the client. If unsuccessful, notifying her supervisor, who will direct the sufficient securities be liquidated to meet the margin call. So you can own too much for your own good. This is actually a maintenance call, not a margin call, but who cares? What I'm about to share with you is a test-taking trick, Ben. And some people think that we shouldn't share test-taking tricks, that Ben should learn the information. And I agree, that's the better way to proceed. But Chuck Lowenstein, who's the subject matter expert here at Kaplan, who is in charge of this QBank, and even Brian Lee, my friend, the test geek, they get upset when they fall prey to this trick I'm about to share with you. And this trick, remember, we only use tricks when all else fails, is too long to be wrong. Too long to be wrong. So when I look at this as a test taker and using a trick, I go, man, the person who wrote this question likes A. They like it a lot because they spent a lot of time writing it. So it's either a hell of a distractor. They think, oh, I'm going to suck some people in on this one. Or they think it's the right answer. Now, remember, you only use that when all else fails. I'm not suggesting you should use test-taking tricks to pass your 63. And obviously, you don't need them because you're on pace to have no problem, not be a risk. You are correct. By the way, those other answers would be taking discretion, and you don't have discretionary authority, right? So that would be a big no. Under the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010, which of the following are required to register as an investment advisor at the state level? So I told you about this 2 buckets things, right? We got these buckets called federally covered securities, another bucket called federally covered investment advisor. And so they're asking who you belong to. I have a video lecture that's very popular. I call it, Who's Your Daddy? Right? As an investment advisor, you only have one daddy. Your daddy is either the SEC or the state or states, depending on the situation. Again, Ben, not true of broker dealers. Broker dealers have many daddies. I have the SEC. I have, the state. I have FINRA. I have all kinds of people in my world. So here they're saying, which one of these investment advisors belongs to the state?
The one with the D answer, because
Yeah.
between 100 and 110 is you get the option to choose. And then
Oh, man, you are so spot on, man. That's exactly right. I don't know of anybody who would not choose to be federally covered if they had the choice, because his life is just so much easier. Now, did you say D or did you say A?
I said D, less than 100.
Okay, good job. There you go. Good job. So be careful too. The other thing I would do is be careful that you don't go too quick. I mean, you got plenty of time on this exam. Time should not be constrained. But I sometimes miss a question just because I don't read the rest of the answer set. I just see my 100 million. I go, 100 million, got it, boom. And then, I go, oh man, how did I miss that? And, I pulled the trigger a little too quick. Northwestern Options Trader is not a broker dealer registered with the SEC. That's kind of odd right out of the gate. Northern. Kaplan are such jerks. I'm just now realizing that not is the ticker or market participant ID for Northwestern Options Trader. What a jerk. Now listen, the way I say this is, You know, the Kaplan jerks are bigger jerks than the real jerks. So not is also registered 8 states. With regards to NOT's net capital requirements, wow. Is a broker dealer registered with the SEC? This is testable. The grammar here is atrocious, but it is testable.
So I think it could be A or D because where the principal office is located.
I got you. This is a broker dealer. The broker dealers is very testable then. States cannot interfere with the requirements of a broker dealer complies with the SEC. That would be record keeping, now capital. You'd be correct if this was an investment advisor. If I were an investment advisor and my net worth was 10 or 30 grand, depending on custody, and I had registered in more than 8 states, it would be the home principal state. But this is a broker dealer.
It's D then.
Yeah, you only have to need. I get to tell the state neener, neener, neener. I don't suggest you say that, but I say, listen, I'm a broker dealer. My SEC standard of net capital is, my SEC standard for record retention is, you state can impose on me, a broker dealer, any higher standard than I already have met. By the way, the standards to be a broker dealer are way higher than the standards to be an investment advisor. So there you go. Boom. Which of the following statements relating to termination of a registration of a securities professional? Again, I suggest you think that's you. So, we're going to terminate you. That's not good. Somebody starts talking about your U5, that U4 is hello and U5 is goodbye. So we're terminating a securities professional. Which of the following is true?
Well, so I'm between A and C, but is it the courts that decides if you're mentally incompetent?
Well, I'm not seeing where something mentally incompetent is in the question. Which of the following statements relating to termination of a registration?
All right, so it's C then.
Yeah, be careful. Don't use your own brain, Ben, which it sounds like a pretty powerful one against yourself.
All right.
I'm being honest with you. I don't think you're at risk based on your performance. But that being said, just remember when you're taking your test, not to bring extra stuff into the questions. So if this was something about somebody being mentally incompetent. Oh, I see what you're doing. My bad. If you were reading A, an administrator may revoke the registration of a securities professional as declared mentally incompetent. If you were reading that as towards your process of elimination, then I'd say, okay, fine. That would be okay if you're trying to eliminate that.
Well, that's true, isn't it though? Like,
It is. Well, they can terminate you, but it would be non-punitive, and there's nothing in this question about that. What they're asking about is jurisdictional retention. So the answer here is indeed C. Now you also should have got that because it's too long to be wrong.
you are right about that.
I'm joking. All right. You're not going to get as many multiples as test prep vendors give you on the actual test. Maybe 3 or 4 multiples of multiples, and that's either good news or bad news depending on how you feel about multiples of multiples. The administrator may deny a person's registration as an investment advisor representative if the person meets which of the following criteria? Roman numeral 1 has a recent securities related criminal record. Roman numeral 2 has recently been convicted of a felony not related to the securities industry, has lost a civil lawsuit within the last year. Roman numeral 4 was convicted of a misdemeanor within the last year that didn't involve securities or money.
I would say B because felony is like the big one. Regardless,
that's exactly right. You're correct. Yeah, I was teaching a class, and as a joke, I said, "Yes, did anybody check this box? Yes, conviction of a felony within the last 10 years." This guy raised his hand. He said, "But Dean, it was no big deal." I said, "Well, listen, my friend, you're a little confused. The definition of a felony is that it was a big deal. If it wasn't a big deal, it wouldn't have been a felony." And I thought, oh my God, I don't ask that question in class anymore. I go, we to TMI. We don't. Which of the following may be required by the administrator to post surety bonds?
Wouldn't it be all of them? So B.
Yeah, right on. Good job. Excellent. Excellent.
Because an agent and the representative can't ever have custody, right?
Yeah, you're not supposed to. That's exactly right.
All right.
Excellent. A new agent is having a hard time making sales. Well, welcome to the business. It's funny because a lot of brokerage firms will hire, great salespeople, which is, I think, not a bad idea because a lot of it is a sales cycle, so to speak. And a lot of them really struggle with the exams. But once they get through the rite of passage of getting their exams, then they can start trying to build their book of business. Anyways, this new agent is having a hard time making sales. This is a term of endearment, but we call that been a baby broker. That's not a derogatory term. That's just somebody new in the business. So, I told you about that sales supervisor. I got into it a little bit. I said, man, I'm so glad I'm not a baby broker with you because, you're a tyrant. Anyways, in order to be more productive, he offers to share in any losses with his clients. Wow. So I say, hey, Ben, if it doesn't work out, I'll put my money where my mouth is and I'll take half the losses. I just made that up. That's not what the question says. But on the other hand, he will share in profits as well. Under NASA's statement of policy on dishonest and unethical business practices of a broker dealer, this is
So I think it's A because
you're correct. So this is, be careful on this. This is the only time, in Series 63 Fantasyland, that is the right answer. In 63 Fantasyland, you would say, hey, I bonded with this client. We're simpatico. We're going to open an account together. He's going to put in $500,000. I'm going to put in $500,000 and we're going to share 50-50. And the answer on the test is with principal approval and proportionate capital, that's okay. Now, I would tell you outside of 63 Fantasyland, your supervisor is going to say, are you a nut? Absolutely not. I mean, I joke, at least, Ben, when you pass your 63, you get to leave Series 63 Fantasyland. I'm stuck here permanently, so it's no wonder I'm demented. I never get... All right. The First Home Savings and Loan Association of State C has a securities offering made in the state. So we're making a securities offering in State C, and it's a savings and loan. Deborah is an employee of the savings and loan and is selling securities to residents of State C. Deborah
I'm going to say A.
You are right. She's an agent to the issuer, right? She can't sell the securities without being registered as an agent of the issuer. So excellent. An agent terminates his association with broker dealer A. So, I wish, brokers gave it a little more time to work out. The learning curve in our business is steep. And, this guy was upset that he was, answering questions from confused customers every day, on every shift. And I said, well, the good news is that you're going to learn a lot. I mean, if you're put on the desk there for the week answering questions from about IRAs, for example, at the end of the week, you're going to be an expert on IRAs. And so, I'd hang in there until you, at least, get some base knowledge of stuff and you'll be more valuable when you move on. But anyways, we're terminating our associate with broker dealer A, and I find a better opportunity with broker dealer B. Under the Uniform Securities Act, which of the following must take place? Which of the following must take place? Broker dealer A must notify the administrator. That's Roman number 1. Broker dealer B must notify the administrator. The agent must notify the administrator. The supervisor, which the agent reported, must notify the administrator.
So it's C, and I believe that it was, I think it was on your video or somewhere in the Kaplan book. It said all for agents, like everyone has to notify.
Yeah, this is called disassociation. I mean, it's in everybody's best interest here to say that you're no longer associated with us, right? Broker dealer A doesn't want you running around holding yourself out, still representing them, and you don't want broker dealer A to say you're still associated, and broker dealer, welcome on board. So, I don't know if you'll make it your entire career with one broker dealer. It's kind of like a professional athlete that plays for one team his entire career. That's very rare. Yeah. And when you move, you file a U5 and then amended U4 is how you go from firm to firm. And you are correct. It's 1, 2, and 3. All the following statements regarding broker dealers are true, except all the following are true, except
So it's A, because they employ agents as well.
They employ only registered, true, yeah, that's right. Remember a lot of, again, I don't know why people, you're correct again, but I think this is so ridiculous, Ben. This firm has a cohort of people get a 7. And then they're all training together, and then there's a fork on the road, and some of them go down the 63 road, and some of them go down the 66 road. And 63 means you're going to be an agent of the broker dealer. And the cohort that goes down the 66 road are going to be agents of the broker dealer and investment advisor representatives for the affiliated investment advisory firm. And, if you go down the 763 road in your future, you'll probably take a 65. A 63 isn't 65 is equivalent. But anyways, what I think is hilarious is they somehow have convinced themselves the cohort that goes the 66 route that somehow they're, I don't know, the elite, and they're going to get, I'm like, which is so ridiculous. I feel like telling them, no, the people that are working in the broker dealer unit answering those phone calls, Ben, as we talked about earlier, are probably going to be, I think, way up on the learning curve as compared to the people that are going out of the branches to, talk to one customer a day or 2 customers a day instead of, 50 of them. So
No,
you are correct. Adrian sells life insurance as an independent licensed insurance producer for several large insurance companies. Selling variable life insurance also requires registration of an agent of the broker dealer handling the product. Supervisory responsibility over Adrian's sales of variable life is that of.
I would say B.
Yeah, right on. Remember, you got to be duly registered. Remember that variable annuity is a mutual fund with an insurance wrapper. So indeed, the broker dealer with whom Adrian is registered, because you have to have a 6 or a 7 to be selling a variable annuity.
So why is so I took the SIE before this. So why is a fixed annuity? I feel like it's deemed like kind of a security in it.
Well, fixed annuities are not securities because you don't have any loss of principal. And a security has to have a risk of loss on the security. And a fixed annuity, I say, Ben, the insurance company is agreeing to pay you 5%. You say, well, I said, what they're going to do, Ben, is put your money into their general account, make investments, and hope to make more than they promised you. But at the end of the day, you, Ben, are not assuming the investment risk. The insurance company is. And so there's no assumption of investment risk. The same with equity indexed annuities. There's no risk of principal. Same with a banking product. So securities products have a risk. In a variable annuity, your money is not going into the general account. Your money is going into the separate account, a mutual fund.
So I guess because I know that they're not a security for this exam, but why are they, I guess,
They're never a
tested?
security. Fixed annuities. If I'm a traditional life insurance guy selling a fixed annuity, I need no securities registrations to do so.
So why are they in the book? Like, I guess is my
Oh,
question.
I'm with you on that, Ben. I just think test prep vendors, there are so many people who are guys like Dean, but they come from the insurance side of the business. And my God, I mean, I had a guy, this test prep vendor had, I don't know, 40 pages on variable life. I was just like, oh my God. Anyways, one of the test takers, very bright guy. And I said, it's just a total waste of your time. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not the guy who wrote the book, but if it were me, I might just rip those 40 pages out of there. And, anyways, I told him not to worry about it. I'm debrief. He said, Dean, I had a variable life question. I said, and then when I talked to him about it, it actually was a camouflage mutual fund question. So all test prep vendors go way overboard on insurance. Now, if you're listening to this on replay, did you already take your 7, Ben, or your 6? Or
No, so I'm taking the 63 and then I'll take the 7 next.
oh, well, that's crazy. That's crazy. So you're kind of I don't know, platypus.
Yeah.
That's not the normal sequence. So the reason I asked that on variable annuities, the reason I'm asking if somebody's listening on replay way, I'm saying it's not a big deal to have the discussion other than with Ben, because the assumption is if you're watching the 63, you've already taken your 6, you've already taken your 7, and this is the next, testing victory you're trying to do. So Ben, when we roll back on the 7, there are 5 or 6 questions on variable annuities. So, but variable life, absolutely not. Fixed annuities, absolutely not. I think if a test prep vendor was here to defend themselves from what I just said. I think what they would say is, Dean, it's to set up the contrast between the fixed annuity and the variable annuity, and how the variable annuity is different. And then that's how that becomes testable, right? That separate account, assuming the investor risk. So
No, that makes sense.
is there a reason that do you not have a sponsor? Is that why you're doing the SIE and the 63 first, or?
Yeah. So it's just like kind of, to help me get this job.
Oh, okay.
So-
Well, that's, like I say, it's pretty cool. What about the guy who referred you to the channel, or you referred him to the channel? What did he take? He's doing the same?
No, so he's actually working in investment banking.
Okay.
He lives in Ohio, so he's taking the 7 grade. Well, he just started studying for the 7, I guess, today or tomorrow.
Okay. So you're just a little out of order. I would tell you that there's no sunken intellectual cost on any of the exams. So the work you do on the SIE on your 63 will pay dividends on your 7. The other thing I would just been casually mention to you is that the 63 is not an operational registration without a 6 or 7. A 65 is. So if you got a 65, that could work without any other registrations at a fee-based investment advisor. I would tell you so far, your performance has been such that you might want to consider that. So if you are waiting to take your 7, and you can take your 65 without sponsorship, it has a lot of investment questions. If you've been then said, I have already my SIE, I have my 63, and I have my 65, I'm going to say, wow, okay, I don't have much risk in this guy. If he can do those, I think he can do it. And you could feel free to put me down as somebody who would serve as a reference. I think you have the brain power to get it done.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I think, like I say, so you might want to consider that just something to think about. If
Yeah,
you queued up a QBank, you'd find out that the regulatory side is almost exact same content. So the only thing that would be new would be the investment side, but that's similar to your SIE.
Yeah.
And then the 7 is just a lot more depth. All right, 23. Which of the following is an unethical practice for agents of broker dealers?
So I would say
A, borrowing money from a commercial bank that has investment accounts with the broker dealer. That's copacetic as long as you go through the additional process of borrowing money from the bank. It's a bona fide lending institution. That's Latin for good faith. So A is okay. Wouldn't
So
be
I
okay
would
with the
say
bank officer. B, failure to make a bona fide public offering of all securities acquired as an underwriter. That one's kind of tricky because I can't actually keep some of the securities as my compensation. So that one kind of looks like a violation, but it says failure to make a bona fide public offering of all securities. That's the part that makes this problematic, right? Because it's the key word is all, right?
I
The
would
ones
say
I'm
B.
offering to the public, I have to offer the public. C, affecting securities transactions not recorded on the books of your employing broker dealer with the employing broker dealers approval in writing. Which of the following is an unethical business practice of broker dealers? Affecting securities transactions not recorded on the books of the employee without prior written commission. By the way, I don't know if you watched my test taking tips and tricks, but we got 2 here. Another test taking trick is what I call the principle of mutual exclusion. And what that means is C and D are saying different things. And both C and D can't be true in the same universe. It's got to be C or D because they're just opposite kind of things. One says you can do it if you have permission. The other says you don't without permission. Right. So that's called the principle. Socrates is a dog. Socrates is a philosopher. He's either a dog or philosopher. I had somebody as a joke on my channel the other day, somebody commented, well, Dean, my dog Socrates is a philosopher. I go, okay, fine. All right. So what answer do you want, my friend? Good news. Yep.
Yeah.
What do you want?
D.
You are correct. So remember, the other great thing, Ben, is you are operating from abundance thus far rather than the scarcity. What that means is you have so many correct answers, they're piling up. that it's almost at some point, I don't know, when we reach question 40, it's almost getting impossible for you not to pass. And I wish other people were operating from abundance and not scarcity. There are people who are, every question becomes like, oh my God, I'm going to, and I hate to say it, but some people miss like 1 point, oh God, so that I don't think is going to be the case with you. So boy, so here we go, right? We just said you're with abundance. And so when you have abundance, you can look at a paragraph like this and go, oh my God, I think I'm just going to guess B, assign it to the universe, and I'll make it up elsewhere. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying that, again, abundance is better than scarcity as a test taker. And, no sense giving up one that might in retrospect be pretty easy. But this is a long paragraph. So again, as a test taker, when I have a whole paragraph like this, I like to just kind of read the last sentence first, just to see where this whole damn thing works out. And so doing Whitworth. So when I make it through this paragraph, they're going to ask me about Stephanie Whitworth and what she can do. So Stephanie Whitworth is an agent with a nationally known broker-dealer. Who cares? Broker-dealers are broker-dealers. There's no distinction in the answer because you're nationally known. Has uncovered an unusual investment opportunity that she believes is perfect for one of her clients. When presenting the recommendation to the client, it becomes clear that the client is concerned about the potential of loss. To alleviate that concern, Whitworth tells the client that she agrees to repurchase the security from the client anytime within the next 60 days at the original purchase price. In doing so, Whitworth,
I would say it's C because she's guaranteeing.
that's exactly right. You can't guarantee customer against loss. I had a guy, my minimum relationship when I was a practitioner was 500,000. And I was thinking about making an exception for this guy. His name was Johnny. I said, if we don't take care of Johnny, who's going to? And so, I was talking to him. I said, Johnny, how are you going to feel if you lose this money? And he said, Dean, I would kill myself. I said, well, then you don't belong on the securities markets. You need to talk to your banker about a banking product, or your insurance about an insurance product, because securities products have risk and we're not supposed to hold you harmless from that. If you say, Dean, is it possible I could lose all my money? I say it is one of the potentialities, right? Now, I think where Kaplan's trying to be clever here is make that sound like that's a put contract. That's not me guaranteeing. That's the put contract that we do. Have you done any work on options thus far?
I mean, just the little with the SIE, and then
Okay.
just,
So how exciting. You got a lot more stuff to learn, which is always great. So the great thing about all this stuff you're going to learn is nobody can ever take it from you. It belongs to you, and the world is a richer place. And as we said, if broker dealer A doesn't want to step up for you, and that question we had previously, hello, broker dealer B. While several methods of registration, I'm going to be surprised if you missed this, Ben, based on your previous discussion you had in one of our questions. While there's several methods of registration as described in the Uniform Securities Act, which of the following would be most appropriate for federally covered securities?
I would say C.
Oh, I gotcha. Remember, we said there's 2 buckets. That's your first miss. I'm going to give you the miss. The actual, remember, it's notifying because this is a federally covered security. New York, federally covered security on the exam bin means New York, NASDAQ, mutual fund, Reg B. Coordination would mean we're doing an IPO.
Right.
We're doing an IPO. Coordination would be SEC and other states, and that would be the traditional initial public offering.
All right, so D then.
Yeah, it is D. I'm going to give you the miss, because we want to have an appropriate thing, right? There's no such thing as mobilization. I joke, if you put mobilization, I think you should just fail immediately. Your seat should shoot you into the ceiling, and they should say, gee, it's going to be a long day for you here. Oh my God, here we go. So here's another one of these paragraph ones. Oh my God. So under Uniform Securities Act, I'd like to read that last sentence first, just to see what they're asking me about. An investment advisor, I told you that's really key. This is not a broker dealer. So I'm a huge fan on NASA exams that out of the gate, you're very clear about, is it a broker dealer? Is it an investment advisor? Is it an issuer? Who is it? This is an investment advisor who has a home office in the state C. Their only business is with mutual funds. I just translating in English. A registered investment company is a mutual fund. Large employee benefit plans and broker dealers. So they have no retail clients. It sounds like they're maybe trying to trick me about a broker dealer that has no retail clients versus investment advisor. I'm not sure. They have no place of business in state D, but they provide investment advice to several registered investment companies in that state. So there's some mutual fund customers in state D. State D recently adopted the Uniform Securities Act. That's the template you're being tested on. And the administrator feels that the investment advisor should be required to register there under the Uniform Securities Act.
I would say D.
You're saying the firm does not have to register because they have no place of business in the state and their only clients are mutual funds. You're right. There are no Joe Sixpacks. There's no retail investors involved. And so I can tell state D, I don't suggest you do that, but boom. Which of the following is a permissible activity for an agent? Remember, you're an agent of the broker dealer. And so they're asking what you can do.
B.
Placing an order, you are correct, in an existing discretionary account without authorization. Yeah, you can't borrow money from customers. You can't trade on material and non-public information. You can't do third parties. I kind of like the wrong answers here because you are tested on these wrong answers. So, you know, what you can't do. What I'm saying is more often than not on the test, they're going to ask you what you can't do. So a big part of, we said the biggest part of your exam, Ben, is that unethical business practices. And that breaks down to what agents and broker dealers can do and what agent broker dealers can't do. So, you know, it's like 15 questions. I joke, you know, don't lie, cheat, and steal, right? It is common for a registered broker dealer to maintain a website. Which of the following statements is true? Which of the following statements is true?
So I think it's B because I know I think a lot of them are.
Yeah, that's right on. The vast majority of brokerage firm records are 3 years. So you get asked about broker dealer records. Remember the other test question, the state can't impose on me a higher standard than that.
Yeah.
Investment advisor records are mostly 5. So good job. Under Uniform Securities Act, a non-exempt transaction, non-exempt. So this means it's not a private placement. And the state only if.
Is it? Is it C?
I love it. I love it.
All right.
The other thing I like as it's Ben as a test taker, I love it that you're one of the people when you take a strategic pause, what you did there, usually you're coming up with the right answer. Because a lot of test takers take a strategic pause that's not healthy. So, so far your strategic pause is kind of like, okay, so let's just talk about you're correct. The security is registered. That's what you should do, right? That means coordination or qualification. The transaction is exempt. Remember this, Ben? Exempt would be no more than 10 offers in 12-month period. It's, you know, a transaction through an officer of the court, a fiduciary, the administrator, a sheriff, you know, a trust in bankruptcy, or it's federally covered. It's New York Stock Exchange, it's NASDAQ, it's a mutual fund, it's a Reg D private placement. Excellent. An agent mistakenly sold an unregistered, non-exempt security to a customer. Which of the following actions should the agent's broker dealer do? Roman number 1, offer to buy the security back from the customer. Ask the customer to sign a customer agreement, register the stock by qualification, offer to pay interest at an annual rate determined by the administrator, less income paid from the date the security was purchased.
So I know. So I feel like it's D.
You are correct. So always go with your gut, particularly with yourself, Ben, because I told you you're pretty solid. So your gut, you should always go with your gut as a test taker, but particularly when you're pretty solid. You know what that's called, by the way? You got it correct. What's that called? Very testable what this is called.
Oh, the rights of rescission.
Ooh, right on. You are a player. Right on. That's exactly what that's called. You know, sometimes the administrators say, would you like to do that? Or would you like me to prosecute you for fraud? Almost every broker dealer is going to say, no, 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 no. You know, if an agent misrepresents the price of a customer stock by $10 to encourage the customer client to sell. Now you got to remember this, the Uniform Securities Act template was written in the 50s. And, you know, I'm dating myself as an old dude, but, you know, I came into the business where the only way you got a quote was to call me and ask because, you know, people didn't have quotes at home. You know, now with smartphones, it's amazing to me, but, you know, anyways, that would be a big deal. And, you know, people could mismark the position to the customer. So needless to say, you know, this is not going to be okay. Now you just got to figure out what is the best answer for what you just did.
Oh, I mean, it's definitely fraud. So I would say,
Yeah, there you go. XYZ Partners Limited is in the business of providing advice on securities for compensation. It sounds like they meet the ABC test to me. Under the Uniform Securities Act, the firm would be considered.
B.
Right on. I mean, that's the definition, right? ABC. You give investment advice. You're in the business of giving investment advice. You want compensation.
Yeah, I do know because I watched your tips and tricks for the SIE before the test. So
Oh, do I have that one in there too?
yeah.
Yes, some of them, you know, overlap. I try not anymore. I used to try and do these like combo videos, like this is for the SIE, the 7, the 65, the 66, and so now I'm trying to get a little more disciplined and like even if it's the same thing, put it, you know, separately. So, but it doesn't hurt, as we said, doesn't hurt. On the Uniform Securities Act, registration would not be required of.
Cold calls are agents.
What's that?
Cold. If you make cold calls, you have to register as agent.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I
I
would
was
say,
reading, talk how old I'm getting. I read this year that Merrill is no longer training baby brokers to make cold calls. I'm like, wow. I mean, when I came in the business, that's what we did all day long was dial for dollars, you know,
yeah.
smile and dial. But anyways, they said they have found that cold calls are no longer, I thought this was kind of interesting, as efficient as social media. That, you know, brokers should be using, you know, LinkedIn and Facebook. And then Merrill said, and they have all these Bank of America customers they can cross solicit. So I thought, wow, it ended up in air, but you know, a lot of it should make cold calls. You're correct.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the age of social media, but I like the the dial, the human interaction rather.
Yeah, it's like you know,
Um, I would,
it is amazing with the brave new world we live in.
yeah, I would say A, the company's assembly
Yeah,
line.
yeah. This I like this one. I have an example of this one, right? Non-exempt issues who work for the company's assembly line. I don't like the assembly line. I have a story I tell about a winery I was raising money for. It was a private placement, and you know, I take you up to the winery and say, "Hey, let's do a due diligence tour and tasting, and then we can decide whether to make an asset allocation to the winery." And I say, "Ben, I think you need to make an asset allocation of $100,000, and the commission of my broker dealer would be 8%, $8,000 on that transaction." And at that winery, there's a senior vice president of hospitality. His name is Ed. And if you come to the winery, he's going to do the same exact thing I just did. He's going to walk you around the winery and he's going to ask you to invest. And key point, he doesn't make $8,000. He's an employee and he's an agent of the issuer, and it's a Reg D private placement. So he doesn't need to be registered. A working group convened by the North American Securities Administrator Association has developed a model fee disclosure to help investors better understand the costs involved in doing business with their broker dealers. The template has broker dealers disclosing which of the following fees.
So I know the right answer because I know that C, D, and A are all not.
That's
not
exactly right. Those are on different documents, right? You're absolutely correct.
At one point, you disclose the commission on what the trade.
Confirmation on the confirmation, right? And remember, on the confirmation, it'll be one or the other, right? Because we're either acting in our principal dealer capacity,
Yeah.
in which case it'll be markup or markdown, or we're acting in our agency capacity, in which case it would be a commission.
All right.
Right on. That is very testable disclosure of capacity. You know, again, sometimes it's in such legalese the customers don't get it. Whether it's banking, you know, I had a guy, I was just down by the winery. He says, Dean, do you think I should invest? I'm thinking about an asset allocation of, $300,000. I said, well, Ben, before I answer that, you need to understand something. I don't represent you. I represent my broker dealer. It represents the winery. It's very unlikely, Ben, that I'm going to say, no, you should not invest $300,000 in this winery. If you want a third party to make the recommendation, maybe you should talk to your accountant, your attorney. But yes, Ben, I think you should invest $300,000 in this winery.
Yeah.
But I just need you to be clear that I'm not representing you. I'm a guy who's been hired to find money, right? So each of the following is considered investment advisor rep on the Uniform Securities Act, except. So I told you someday you're going to come back and get another exam to go with your 63.
I would say A.
That shows up on the test all the time, right? There's a lot of pivot words on the test. One of those pivot words is like solely clerical in nature, or administrative. I call these questions, Ben, on the test you can get correct with what I call the Sesame Street trick. One of these things is not like the other, right? And so you're absolutely right. The employee who performs clerical tasks or administrative tasks is a little different. Perpetual investment returns, a registered advisor in 4 states. So that's important because that means they're not federally covered. Well, I mean, it may be not important, but as I read the question, I'm trying to pick up on things that may be important to answering the question. They've had no material change in the information. So that's another pivot word. Material means something that would alter an investment decision. So we've had no material changes. We might have an immaterial. That's a very important word. That means things that would not alter your decision. I saw this broker being interviewed and they said, why didn't you tell this client the information? He said, I thought I'd lose the sale. That is the all-time worst answer, because that means you knew that it was a material fact. I say, Ben, it might cause me to lose the sale here, but something you ought to know. So there's been no material changes in its form, ADV Part 2, that's the brochure, or can be used in lieu. This means PRIIR is.
So it's just what we talked about earlier. A and C are the same thing. I would say C, just because prospective clients are required to receive it, aren't they?
Right on. Good job. Excellent. I like your rationale as well. Your rationale was spot on as well. If an agent has secured a signed statement from a customer that waives the customer's right to sue for a transaction in violation of the Uniform Securities Act, you are taking a legal exam. And, one part legal things is you can't write a contract that's illegal and then enforce it. It has no enforcement power, right?
Yeah.
I took out a hit on a guy and you didn't murder him, and now I'm going to sue you in court. No, right? So if an agent has secured a signed statement of a customer that waives the customer's rights, by the way, it doesn't have to be right to sue any right. The one that shows up on the test is like assignment of an investment advisory contract. I say, Ben, the Uniform Securities Act and Investment Advisory Act stipulate that I need your consent to sign your investment advisory contract. Here, you're acknowledging that I can do that. You're waiving that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Those are called hedge clauses. That's legalese for, clauses that, do this.
I would say A.
You are correct. That is testable. I don't like this particular phraseology of this question, but it is definitely testable. When an agent terminates employment with their broker-dealer registered with the SEC and affiliates of the broker-dealer registered solely in the state, which of the following is true?
So this one confuses me because it's SEC's, but is it C? Are they still all?
Don't you like that? This is the same question, just phrased differently. You got this right earlier. I would have been a little, say, well, how'd you go backwards on this? Because you had this exact same question.
I think just the SEC, I think of SEC, like, I feel like, think of like.
Oh, okay, I get it. I get it. Yeah, that's not the meaningful part. It has nothing to do with answering this question.
All right.
So there you go. So you just, that comes with practice, drilling, and rehearsing as well. So, I told you there are these pivot words. I do like that you locked onto the SEC as potentially being a pivot word, because it could be, right? It could be an important kind of thing. So yeah, good job. The term qualified client would include a natural person who
So it's 1.1 million solely, 2.2 together, so I would say C.
Yeah, indeed. I'm going to make a note of this one. I actually think that our friend Chuck at Kaplan should probably just remove this from the Q bank, because this changes, and you don't want to have things in the Q bank that are changing. You won't get asked about that. The test question is, what can you do with a qualified client, Ben? So the test question on the exam is not who is a qualified client, the definition of this. It's also, remember, somebody who has 5 million or 1 million with us in assets under management. That's not the point. The point is, what can we do with a qualified client that we can't do with somebody who's not qualified?
Or to like Reg D.
We can have performance-based compensation as an investment advisor. Again, I think it's a poor question, but a Form U4. So if you're not sponsored, I would imagine you haven't done one of these yet. Have you not filled out a U4 anywhere?
No, but I do know this one. It's the agents, because the broker dealer is Form BD.
Right. It's registered as an agent of a broker dealer. It's going to have a bunch of questions, Ben, on that U4. Read it carefully. I had a guy who said he didn't read it and he checked every box yes. A yes answer on your U4 bid is what we call a dirty U4.
Yeah.
If you could answer all those questions no, that is a clean U4. So we're talking about your interview process. A lot of firms will hand you a template that isn't the U4, but we probably want to know those answers before we fill out the U4. So we say, hey, can you answer these questions? We picked up, we told you the 3 big yeses are a felony, a misdemeanor involving monies or securities, have been denied, suspended, revoked registration in the past. So you're going to fill one of those out. I'm hoping you can check every box. No.
Yeah, no felonies or
Yeah, right on.
here.
Right on. All right, areas of concern protecting customer data. So all firms have to have written supervisory procedures about how they're going to fulfill their responsibilities to protect customer data. And so this is asking about protecting customer data. Areas of concern concerning protecting customer data would include Roman number 1, agents recommending securities that are unsuitable for the customer. 2, a vendor misusing or inadequately protecting confidential customer information. Roman number 3, a retail customer loaning money to the agent handling the account. 4, a vendor possibly failing to adequately protect confidential customer information after its relationship with the firm is terminated.
I would say 2 and 4.
Yeah, the others are problems, but it's not a cyber security problem. It's just an unethical question, indeed. One of the terms defined in the Uniform Securities Act is broker-dealer. Which of the following is included in that definition? I like this one. I don't know what the answer set is, but I like the question.
I would say C, because the definition is affecting securities for their account or others.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's either acting in our principal capacity or agency capacity. Indeed. An agent with a broker-dealer is suddenly called out of town on a personal family matter. While away, the agent's unregistered sales assistant receives a phone call from an existing client wishing to purchase 200 shares of a listed stock. What would be the most appropriate action for the sales assistant to take? This is very testable.
I would say D. Or you could put the call back to a licensed agent in the office. I would say D.
So which one are you taking?
I'm taking D.
B as a boy or D as in dog?
D as in dog.
D as in dog, you missed it.
All right. So is it B?
It is B.
All right.
Right. That's, listen, Ben, as I told you, the great thing about where you're at is you're in abundance. So now you look at that as a 50-50. Is there a reason you went for the D instead of the B choice?
I mean, existing client, it makes me just feel like they maybe have like a person, like, I guess this is where I'm taking the information, but it just makes me assume that they like kind of.
Okay, this shows up on your exam quite a bit. The other one is on the other side of what your rationale, and still be careful of this. The other version of this is I call the customer and his assistant says he told me to tell you. So Somebody who's not properly licensed can't do it. And then again, somebody who is can. So not a bad miss, though. Not a bad miss. But still a miss. Like I say, you're not at risk at all. So no worries. On the Uniform Securities Act, an agent may not make which of the following statements to a customer,
D, the approved one, because they don't approve anything.
That's right. We get two nasty words. Remember the other nasty word we never use? We never use the word approve, and we never use the word guarantee.
Oh yeah,
Those are
guaranteed.
two nasty words in the securities industry. We never say anything's approved. We never say anything is guaranteed. Which of the following statements regarding an agent is true? Which of the following about an agent is true?
I would say B. Hold up. Is unlawful under the for an agent to see. Yeah, I would say B.
Well, remember one of our test taking tricks is B and D are almost the exact same answer. Almost the exact same answer. B says it's unlawful under the Uniform Securities Act. Uniform Securities Act. For an agent to deceive another person when engaged in non-securities related activities. On the test, non-securities is insurance.
Yeah.
D says it's unlawful under the Uniform Securities Act for an agent to deceive another person when engaged in securities related sales activities. You missed that one. It's the securities. I think it's a poor question again.
All right.
I think it's a poor question because both of them are bad. But you know what they're trying to distinguish is that the state administrator does not have regulatory authority over insurance products, non-securities products. So we're not saying you can deceive people with insurance. We're just saying that would be the Department of Insurance.
Yeah,
Not
no,
the
that,
state administrator.
yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, but like I say, still, like I said, I think you missed 3 so far, so it's not a problem. The Uniform Securities Act provides the state administrator may deny the registration of a broker dealer for all the following reasons, except all the following reasons, except.
I would say lack of experience. So
Yeah,
D.
otherwise, Ben, you would never get started.
Yeah.
Right, so that is testable, by the way. That's on the test. So this idea that I can't disqualify somebody because they're new, right? NASA has created a model rule dealing with the creation and delivery requirements of an investment advisor brochure. Which of the following statements correctly identify those delivery requirements?
I'm going to say B, 2 and 4.
You are correct. You are correct. I was surprised you got that right just because a lot of people miss the investment advisor part versus the other stuff. So, like I say, strongly consider going for that 65. If you're waiting on finding a sponsor, you might want to consider. I think you already would have the half down on the regulatory side, which means you only have to do some investment work. And I don't know, Ben, on your SIE successful test effort, how long ago since you took your SIE?
I passed on May 6th. So it was
So-
like right before I graduated from college.
I love it. I love it. So what I was saying is that maybe that base hasn't completely disappeared yet. So, because sometimes people take a test, they do the data dump and they're like, I'm done. They flush it. They don't remember it. But assuming that some of that's still familiar, I would be willing to support saying, I think you could, with not much additional work, get your 65 done too. And that does not require sponsorship either. Avuncular Securities is a broker dealer registered in 7 states. ASI is leading a registered offering of a non-exempt security. That's important, that language. That means it's not a government, it's not a municipal, it's not a foreign government with diplomatic relations, it's not a charitable organization, and an IPO in state D. As such, any advertising and sales literature.
I would say D, it must be filed with the administrator and state.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Oh my God. These are the ones where I told you if I was operating redundant, I might say, you know what, I'm just going to guess B. I'm going to say universe, and I'll make it up elsewhere. As I told you, I always like to read the last sentence first, just to kind of see, where this thing ends up at the end of the day. Sometimes that's helpful, sometimes it's not. In this situation, the agent has acted. Okay. And then I sometimes like to look at my answer set, and I got 2 that say improperly, 2 that are ethically. So now I know before I read. So sometimes on long ones, I like to kind of read answers, sometimes the answer set. Sometimes I can read an answer set and there might be before I even read the question. Like if I have an answer that says, as stipulated in the prospectus, I go, wow, I don't know what this question is, but that's a hell of an answer. I like that a lot. And that's
Yeah,
my answer. So if I can determine ethically or improperly, I got a 50-50. All right. So Sue has a lifelong friend and best customer. Due to a substantial stock market drop, the agent receives a maintenance margin call in his personal account that cannot be satisfied without liquidating securities in the account. The agent receives in his personal account. Okay, so I'm just trying to be clear, but as I'm reading this, whose account has dropped? It's Sue's account that has dropped. Smith offers, let's see, the agent receives a maintenance margin call in his personal account. Liquidating securities. Smith offers to transfer cash and securities from her own account. Okay, so Sue is not the customer. She is not the agent, it's the customer. Because this offer could be misunderstood, the agent borrows $10,000 from Smith. Okay, well, Ben, right here, period, full stop. We know this is improper.
yeah.
So now we got a 50-50 under a legal and binding loan agreement. So now they're making it sound like we go to an attorney, we draw it up properly, we're not in trouble. In this situation, the agent has acted. So it's either going to be A or C.
I would say C, improperly.
You are correct. Now, did you pick C just because it's longer than that choice A? Too long to be wrong?
No, I mean, I know that you can borrow money from
I
people.
know, there you go. It's easy. Absolutely. And that is testable. Remember, unless it's a bona fide lending institution through the normal blending process. When opening account at a broker dealer, if the most recent copy of the firm's fee schedule is not available, NASA recommends that the client
A.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna see anything like that, but by the way, do you know what if we make a change in our fee, how long do we have to tell you that we're changing our fee schedule?
Isn't it 30 days?
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Yeah, because that gives you a chance to decide whether that's going to be a deal breaker or not for you, and you're gonna say, Dean, I'm out of here, or All right, so Jatal study. I apologize, Jatal, if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Studied finance in college. It is now in the process of registering as an agent for a multi-state broker-dealer. While she is studying her Kaplan course material, she wants to pass the exam on her first attempt. Who doesn't? That's always the best way to proceed. She tells her supervisor she has some spare time and would like to assist in the office. Chantel would be permitted. So I kind of like this thing. It doesn't matter that she's in the process. She's not registered is the point. So it wouldn't matter who this person is. If they're not registered, they're asking what non-registered persons can do.
I would say D, she can do
Yeah,
all of those.
yeah, she's not making the key thing you got to write, Ben. She's not making public contact regarding securities. Right. So that's the key. When it comes to social media, agents need to understand the difference between interactive and static content. Again, this would be found in the firm's written supervisory procedures about what you're going to be allowed to do or not do as it relates to social media. Which of the following would be considered static content?
B, because all the other ones you can like comment back.
That's exactly right. The concept there is entanglement. So what they say is if I have this thread going and, somebody else says something stupid, you're still going to be held accountable for it. Right. Yeah. So if you say, hey, Ben, thanks for tripling my money. And then you guys say, well, gee, I wish I could do that for everybody.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be in trouble because that's just like you claim that you tripled somebody's money. It would be considered an unethical business practice under NASA's policies for an investment advisor to charge fees.
I would say A, the
Yeah,
quarter.
you're correct. You're correct. Yeah, it's usually an annually based kind of a fee. Good job. An investment advisor may not have custody of customer funds and securities under the Uniform Securities Act if
There is a rule in the state bearing such custody.
that's right. That's exactly correct. The Uniform Securities Act permits excessive trading that generates high commissions and low return in a customer's account. Oh my.
That's churning, right?
That is indeed
Yeah.
churning. That is indeed churning.
So that's D, under no circumstances.
Yeah, come on. That's you don't get many layups on the test. So when you get a layup, man, you gotta be able to perform on layups.
Yeah.
Angels weep for you. You miss a question like that. That's one of those ones I joke that if you miss that, your seat should shoot you into the ceiling and you should fail immediately, and they can pull you down and say, what happened? And you say, I missed this thing about churning. An individual who's compensated by an issuer or a broker dealer for selling registered securities is
I'm going to say B.
yeah,
A.
they're an agent. Remember, the point of that is to make sure the customer understands who they're representing. So whether it was me or Ed, remember my winery story,
Yeah.
neither one of us are representing the customer. He represents the winery. He's an agent to the issuer, the winery. I'm an agent to the broker dealer that represents the winery. And it's important the customers, try and understand it, or we try and get them to understand that, customers sometimes don't get it, but I mean, we're trying as much as we can. Under the Uniform Securities Act, suitability guidelines require that an agent do which of the following?
Suitability means like what's best for the customer, right? Or
That's
like
exactly right.
yes. So I would say A.
Yeah, that's right. It's very important, Ben. Data gathering is really important. I say, Ben, for me to do a really good job for you over time, I need to know a lot about you. The more I know about you, the better I'm going to be able to determine suitability. And you say, well, Dean, it's none of your damn business. I said, well, Ben, it actually is. My regulators say that I have a know your customer responsibility.
Yeah.
I have a responsibility to know who my customer is. And if I don't know anything about you, then I can't make recommendations. If I don't have some way of determining suitability, then I can't make recommendations. If a broker dealer has secured a signed statement from a customer that waives their right to sue, I think we had this question before, I think already, right?
Yeah, it's the null and void answer.
Yeah. NASA's brochure rule for investment advisors requires the delivery of a brochure containing information about the advisor's background and business practices and all the following except.
So I know when you $500 per year, you're not obligated to get
That's
it.
right.
So I'm going to say when the client is an investment company, you're probably not going to get it either.
There you go. Remember, because they're capable of protecting their own interest. Excellent. Peterson Financial Planning is a small financial planning partnership in Missouri. Look, extra crap they give you. I have the guy I told you who's the subject matter Kaplan's a guy named Chuck, and he's eccentric. I love Chuck, but every once in a while we get into it, and I'm like, he's got questions. I go, Chuck, really? I mean, I call them gotcha questions. We can't decide if it's a gotcha question. If it's like a paragraph explanation, it's probably a gotcha question. Anyways, he purposely is trying to stretch your mind. So I've got some really good news for you, Ben. You are not at risk at all because this Kaplan exam that you've just aced is actually harder than the 63. In fact, I think you told me you're testing what, May 31st?
Yeah, next Wednesday.
So, your thing is you just got to stick the landing. So, you're circling the airport, and, saying, okay, time to land the plane, right? So anyways, as a result of the Dodd-Frank Act, which of the following statements best describes the registration requirement of Peterson Financial Planning? So, the National Securities Market Improvement Act was a part of Dodd-Frank. I don't know why Chuck keeps referring to this as Dodd-Frank, but remember I told you it created two buckets of of federally covered things, federally covered securities and federally covered investment advisors. So what they're talking about registration. So
it's a C because they're under 100. That 100.
there you go. Remember, it's never both. It is never both. Very, very impressive. Very impressive. I mean, I got your email before we decided this is what we were going to do in our time together. There you have no red flags whatsoever. I just wish more people put in the work that score reflects. And even the ones you missed were not, I think, out in left field anywhere. So any other questions of myself, Ben? You know how to reach me, Dean the Series 7 Guru at gmail.com. If you have any Kaplan questions with QIDs, that's a number, just send them to me. I'm more than happy to go over them. But, if whoever your accountability partner is, I guess you're your own accountability partner if you don't have a sponsoring broker dealer. But if we're backstage and somebody asked me about you, I'd say, listen, he's going to pass this thing Wednesday. And I would tell whoever that person is, I've recommended he go take a 65. And like I say, I wish we gave scores on the real test, because people like you deserve a score because, you put in the work. And we don't hire people with high scores based on high scores, because sometimes it's sometimes a red flag. You get that